NSW. Parents of Reddit. What are some ridiculous ways or excuses your kids used to hide the fact that they were masturbating? I once rented a P movie on pay-per-view. I must have been about 13. When the bill came at the end of the month and my mom asked me about it, I said that I had rented it on accident because I wanted to see if I could rent Drake and Josh on pay-per-view with my eyes closed. Friggin' genius response. I would consistently finish into my boxer shorts when I was 14, but my grandmother did the wash. One day, in her thick Portuguese accent she told me it's okay, vovô, grandma, she cleaner for you and no tell mammy, my sons. He did the same thing. No problem. She then informed me she'd wash my boxers with fabric softener to make it feels better. Needless to say I started jerking it in the shower after that. That must have been a pretty awkward conversation, but at least she was cool about it, unlike some parents and relatives in the thread. Dad came home early from work one day to find me with the vacuum hose suctioned over my basketball shorts. What the heck are you doing? It slipped. He told that story to my new GF of 3 months the first night he met her. Didn't realize Sterling Archer had a Reddit. My parents are hella religious and think pee is the pee of the devil. When I still lived with them, I only ever tried when absolutely no one was home. They make my 13 and 14-year-old siblings put all devices with Wi-Fi on a counter at 9 PM. They make up bull's excuses as to why, but we all know the true reason. One time I walked in my younger brother sending obscene texts his fake girlfriend on an online game. He said they were just playing house. I still laugh about it to this day. My boyfriend's mom walked in on him fully nude wanking it once. He told his mom monthly checkup before she screamed and slammed the door. Oh my god, the monthly checkup line is amazing. I have taken long showers for years now. Reading through this thread has made me paranoid that my parents would have read in between the lines and thought I was jerking it. In reality I'm just stood there thinking about stupid crap and enjoying the warm water. I know, right? Can't help but feel self-conscious now, Mayo. My brother saved a bunch of Tomb Raider cosplays to our family computer in an unnamed file. When my mom found it, first she asked me about it, then him. I was horrified. Family PC, come on man. And he cried and claimed the computer must have saved the dirty pictures on its own. Maybe it was a glitch. Sure, bro. In an unnamed file hidden in other files. All named things like Zyla and such. Absolutely. It's been like 13 years since that happened and he still has a thing for Lara Croft. When blaming the computer fell through, he tried to insist I was who did it, or that I'd either tricked the computer into saving those to get him in trouble or just saved them myself to get him in trouble. That worked even less, LMAO. But yeah, Lara Croft is pretty attractive. I mean, she's only gotten hotter. Not a parent, but my mom did this thing where she would knock and walk right it. She caught me jerking off and screamed, "What are you doing?" I said, "Mom, I'm jerking off, just freaking leave." She left. Mom, I'm jerking off, just freaking leave. I read this in Napoleon Dynamite's voice, gosh. In my early teens I used to jerk it on the bed all the time. My bed had a loose board on the headboard that would kind of make this soft clacking sound to my stroking. As a naive child, I assumed nobody could hear it. Turns out everybody. My older sisters, my mom, dad, and even my aunt who stayed with us a lot, heard me jerking off all the time and knew exactly what was going on. I learned this about 4 years after moving out when we all got together and got drunk one night. And on my way up to the bedroom I drunk. But mom goes, "We don't want to hear that headboard clanking tonight or you're going to be washing those sheets." Everyone laughed. I was like, what? And then thought about it all night. Nobody acknowledged it at breakfast. Good god, that was awful. At one point in time when I was 10 or so, I swiped a Victoria's Secret magazine from the mail. I thought I was super clever, and when I finished I would just shoot into the magazine. Then I would fold it up and hide in a pair of old sweatpants it in the bottom of my closet. One day when I was at school, my mom decided to super clean my room and found the magazine balled up in the old sweatpants. She recounted the story some years later and remarked that she probably could have broken the thing in half, it was so crusty. And I thought I was so clever too. You were clever, right up until you decided that leaving the evidence for someone to find later was a good idea. When I was a young teenager around 2004, 14, Or 2005, 15. I was on imagadump.com looking at nude pictures. I found one of a couple lesbians and tried to print it to hide in my room. The printer, being crappy as usual, didn't work. I don't recall exactly what I did, but I know I didn't cancel it correctly. My mom a day later changed the ink and guess what began slowly printing? A full page, colored picture of lesbians going to town on each other. My dad had a very awkward conversation with me about how pee is bad. Man, screw the printer industry. One day I was watching the movie Basketball and there's a scene where you see a woman moaning and moving back and forth, but she's actually just trying to fix her vacuum cleaner. Anyways, the movie was loud, so my parents yelled down, "What are you watching?" and I said basketball. I bet it sounded like basketball, so I'm sure they were thinking I was lying out of my butt. How is it that parents always seem to listen and walk by when there's something private or that can be construed as private going on? I swear, like I've been watching this movie for an hour and just at this one specific 2-minute scene you're going to walk in and think I'm watching POK. When I was growing up, if my mother called me from another room and I responded back with "I'm coming," she'd yell back, "Well, stop it and get down here." Not really helpful to the topic at hand. See what I did there? But I felt it was worth mentioning. Believe it or not, there are very few opportunities for me to tell that story, and apparently in my wedding vows wasn't a good time. The last part sold it. I promise to always be there for you, through thick and thin. By the way, sometimes my mom would tell me to stop jerking off and come eat with the family. I'd straight up tell my parents, "Well, I'm off to wank myself into a coma and go bed." My dad laughed. My mom rolled her eyes. My sister was grossed out. The dog wagged his tail. They never suspected a thing. You cannot catch the phantom masturbator. The dog wagged his tail. They never suspected a thing. You cannot catch the phantom masturbator. The dog knew. He knew exactly what was going on. When I was a teenager, my mom asked me what was those fapping noises coming from the shower. I told her that it was the noise of me washing my butt. She knew. Being a girl, I really can't imagine my parents knowing other than prior knowledge that girls do in fact masturbate. It's probably easier to catch a boy in the act than a girl, right? I was in my son's room and opened his top drawer while he was playing a video game, looking for something. He had a look of horror on his face, and when I looked in the drawer there was like 15 wadded pieces of tissue. I thought I would let him off the hook and said, "Hey, you have a cold?" He quickly says, "Yeah, started yesterday," and then I go, "Well, jerking off won't cure it," and walked out. I can only imagine the change in his expression from horror to relief, back to horror again. Savage. My parents probably thought that I was jerking off when I said I was in the bathroom reading. I legitimately was reading though. I'd grab a book anytime nature called, and eventually I just started keeping a book hidden under the sink to read when I was occupado. If you don't knock first, it's on you and you pretend you don't see it and leave nonchalantly. But kids are frisky as frick, so sometimes you walk into the basement looking for something and come upon your kid scrambling to pull up their pants. And though you don't know why they chose to rub one out next to your tool rack, you just grab what you came for and leave. But of course, you'll have to make one offhand joking comment later on when they least expected to let them know you knew what was happening and enjoy their mortified expression. Other than that, just accept that your kid is gonna be hormonal and frisky, which is perfectly normal, and let them do their thing. So let me set the scene. Christmas Eve when I was 14. I absolutely love Christmas, so I was up at 2 AM due to not being able to sleep and still had my Christmas tree lights on because I was excited. So, I wanted to rub one out so it could help me sleep. Anyways, I start watching the pee and I was laying butt naked on my bed with no covers. IDKY no covers, they just weren't there. Now we had a limited data plan on our phones, but we had Wi-Fi. This night our Wi-Fi was randomly off, so I was using data without knowing. I use all of it, which sends a text to everyone on the plan to let them know. I did not receive said text. Still not finished, I continue on and my mom burst into the room and starts screaming at me about the data, and I just roll over butt naked and curl into a ball as she finishes screaming at me. Still have not talked about it, so not sure if she knows or not. I was semi-homeless at the time and a buddy of mine let me stay at his house for a couple of weeks. He went to work and the house was empty, so I posted up on his computer and put on some pee. After a little while I was really getting into it and the door burst open and his stepdad yells, "What ya doing, boy?" He scared the living pee out of me and caught me, dong in hand. All I could do was shrug at this point and he giggles, closes the door and walks away. I did not finish. Give that stepdad his prank on stepson's friend of the year award and tell him to knock next time. So this is what happened. I'm 13 or so and babysitting my niece at my sister's house. For context, I'm now 35F. Niece falls asleep and I'm watching a movie. The movie ends and I go to the movies to choose another. These are VHS movies. A lot of them are copied ones and thus have no labels or incoherent scribble on them. As I'm looking I feel the need to crap. I pop the unlabeled movie in my hands into the player and go to deal with my business. My sister's mother-in-law lives next door. She sometimes randomly checks in to let me know if she's running to the store or whatnot. In this case, she opens the door and calls my name. I yell back that I'm using the bathroom. No sound for a minute. I think she's left. I am finishing up in the bathroom but leave my pants unbuttoned as I wash my hands. I come out of the bathroom to sister's mill standing in front of the TV. She turns around as I'm buttoning my pants. Very cheekily she huffs that she'll leave me to my business and stalks out the door. I'm confused but then realize that on the big screen TV behind her is a homemade tape of my sister riding her hubby to oblivion. Even my 13-year-old self knows she thinks I was masturbating to my own sister's sex tape. And worse, she's just seen her daughter-in-law riding her son into a frenzy, cheesing into the camera with a look that says she's loving it more than one loves McDonald's. I quickly turn off the movie and hide it in the very back of the cabinet. I didn't tell sister. I didn't want her to know that both me and her husband's mother have now seen her in all her glory and must now think I'm wanking to my sister's adult tape while babysitting a toddler. For weeks I wouldn't babysit and from then on if I did I always locked the door as soon as sister left. Avoided her mill for ages because her venomous look every time she saw me after that made me feel guilty even if it was an accident and I wasn't actually masturbating to said adult tape. Well, now you have to fap to it. You already felt the guilt. Was upstairs rubbing one out in the bathroom whilst my father was downstairs watching the news. In an attempt at raising the volume, one ended up having it mirrored on the Apple TV downstairs and quickly turned my laptop off. Later that evening as I passed him in the hallway he gave me an awkward slight grin while shaking his head. Not sure what that was for. I like to think that the P didn't show up on his screen. It's something I'll never know. There really should be a one button wank mode on all devices. Hit that button and it shuts off Bluetooth and disables any mirroring modes. They can't be turned back on without disabling the mode or entering a password for one-time connection. I never even hit it. Knock, go away. Then they leave. We all knew what that meant and once I was done, I'd wash up and go see what they wanted. I guess I just grew up in a more understanding household than many of you. Sorry. It should be noted that if I went to go ask for something and my parents happened to be doing so, I got the go away as well. I promise it isn't a dominance thing. That emanates big dong energy honestly. I'm a girl and I used to steal my mom's work laptop to watch P when I was 12. I didn't know what a browser history was or even that I was supposed to delete it. After a few times, my mom left her laptop at work and started demanding that I leave my room door open at night. This really put a kink in things for me because I was so used to P that using whatever my imagination could muster up wasn't cutting it. I had no visual stimulation so I couldn't get off until I found something else that rocked my world. And I figured that if my mom walked in and asked, I was simply writing a book. And that's the story on how I learned to masturbate and write smut at the same time. Was put a kink in things an intentional euphemism or? I used to do it in the bathroom when I was around 12. Then when someone comes home I would just pretend to have just gone to the toilet, and even flush most of the times. Not at all obvious that every time my mom comes home I would just have been on the toilet. When we were on family vacation a bit later my mom said jokingly something like, "I know what you do in the bathroom because we have a camera in there." Stupid as I was, I immediately searched the bathroom for cameras as soon as we arrived but obviously found nothing. Years later I was still somewhat scared that there would be cameras in our bathroom. It took a long time till it dawned on me how my mom knew. I had the same fear when my parents would go on a trip or somewhere and leave me alone at home, that they placed cameras everywhere and spy on me and film everything I do. I did a student exchange and was living with a family with a 14-year-old son. He was taking forever in the shower in the morning, so I asked his mother to tell him to hurry up or at least let me go pee before he goes in. She told me the reason it was taking so long is because he doesn't like water on his face. She honestly believed him and was shocked when I insinuated he was masturbating because he's way too young for that. Yeah right. Yeah, right. I started before 10. Masturbated in the shower, took a bath, dried up, wore my shorts and left the bathroom. Then I sat down on the couch next to my mom to watch TV and she was like, "What's that on your leg?" I looked down and turns out there was a little bit of dried CM on my leg. I acted surprised and was like, "WTF?" I have no idea. She was like, "You must have blown your nose in the shower," and I was like, "You heck no, that's nasty." Then I walked back into the shower and cleaned up. I don't think she knew what it was, but part of me says she did. She knew. Trust me, your mom knows exactly what dried CM on skin looks like. I talked with my son pretty openly about understanding what masturbation is, and that it isn't wrong or shameful at all. Due to that, he's had no issues in telling me when he's having me time, as he calls it, when I'm trying to call him downstairs or go to talk to him about something. I respect his space for his me time. I know what it was like at that age. Not quite the same, but way back in my youth my parents and siblings were all out, so I decided to watch a P movie VHR tape my parents had. I recognize now it was soft P, but at the age of 9 I thought it was the route to heaven. However, 10 blissful minutes and the dang thing jammed in the tape player and there was no way I could get it out, excuse the pun, and had to actually tell my dad. As is bloody typical, of course, that was also the moment my older brother and sister came home, so I had to own up in front of them. Of course my dad asked me what tape was in it. He just stared at me, and now I have kids of my own, I can see the dilemma. How do you tell off your child for watching your pee with your other children stood there? Haha. My mom once told me my dad had said he had to clean up after me a bunch of times after I took a shower. The thing is, I never did that in the shower as a teenager. To this day I have no idea what he was actually cleaning up in there. Not the same, but I was once fricking my girlfriend just out of high school and my mom unexpectedly came home. My girlfriend quickly hid and I told her I was masturbating completely nude. She believed me and told everyone that would listen. Good thing you didn't wear a condom. Okay, technically this isn't really related to the actual question, but a hilariously cringy memory just popped up in my head. I was 12 or so and invited to a slumber party at my best friend's house. We're both female. Her little sister was considerably younger, maybe 5 or so. She also had friends staying over and my friend's mom pressured us into entertaining the little ones. As we're all going to bed, the little sister and a friend of hers, same age, start giggling, and when asked what's going on, my friend sighs exasperated and tells us, "They're doing this thing with the pillow again." Cue to a couple of 5-year-olds explaining about the funny feeling they get when they straddle their pillows and ride them, which they then demonstrated. My friend thought it was hilarious and made fun of her sister for masturbating. Honestly, I kind of wish I could travel back in time and watch all of our hilarious expressions. We were all like, ha, ha, crazy. I mean, who would even do something like that? So gross. Haha, while trying not to look at each other or seem too suspicious. I kind of wish I could travel back in time and watch all of us. Yes, officer. This comment right here. So not crazy or ridiculous, but go to mine and the wife's stash of toys and realize, damn it, why are some missing? After snooping found them in daughter's room. 17. Walked out and never asked. That is not a conversation I want to have or think about. You should tell her to wash it before she returns it. So, they don't. They just admit it. Admittedly, they are young, but we have never shamed them for it in any way. We just tell them that they need to do it in their bedroom or the bathroom. I hope that this is how our parenting works out too. I'm thinking we have a few years turned 9 this weekend, though, I hope. Made a slideshow of pics I found online in a Word document. like my own mobile P sheet. I was like 12, and this was before smartphones. Hit print and nothing came out. So I tried printing again and again and nothing. My dad comes home from work and plugs in the printer, or it was never plugged in, to print some things for work. Out comes page after page of P as I instantly die inside watching the pages print. My dad discovers right away that it's not his work document and looks at me like WTF. I blamed my brother and my dad just said okay. My brother was not yet home and he obviously knew it was me. He has since told the entire family a few Christmases back and we laughed it off at the time. However, I've never told anyone outside of this and it's too great not to share. I often wonder about posts like this. Is OP looking for tips and tricks? Looking for spank bank material, or both? I suspect they are looking to make a deposit in the bank, but who knows. I once kept tissues and lotion right next to each other in my room to frick with anyone that came in and saw it. That was legitimately the reason. I usually got off in the bathroom, not my room. I remember me and my mom were joking around and I called her gross or something. Can't remember the context. And she said something like, "You're the gross one, leaving that lotion right next to your tissues." A friend of mine got caught in the shower by his mum having good time. Quick as a whip he exclaimed, "It's mine, mum, and I'll clean it as fast as I want." Had pee pulled up on my parents' massive Mac desktop upstairs. Mum came up, saw the pee, looked at me, walked into a room and then went downstairs and never said a word about it. This is kind of the opposite. I'm not a parent, and I didn't hide it at this point, mainly cause I didn't know what I was doing. At one point on the school playground I found out while sliding down the fire pole it feels good, so I literally would sit there all recess on that pole like an idiot. At one point I found out that doing it on a wall that doesn't go to the ceiling in my house still felt good. My parents questioned it and I told them that I don't know why, but it feels good. I wasn't even 10 back then. I used to always jerk it in the shower and thought nothing of it. Never go called out directly, but one day my dad grabs me, hands me a thing of bleach and sternly tells me to scrub out the entire bathtub. This was a chore I'd never done, never been asked to do, but I had a gut feeling as to what the origin of this request was. I didn't ask any questions and scrubbed the crap out of that tub. I used to take really long showers as a kid and my parents always used to yell at me to come out. Keep in mind I was a really naive kid, so I didn't start to you know, but I was always confused as to why my parents were so adamant that I take shorter showers. Now I think I know what they were thinking, what I was doing. I used to fall asleep in the shower, would end up being woken up by my mum telling me that I'd been in there half an hour and I'm going to be late for school. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.